Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Logical Nonsense Podcast. We got a loaded Super Bowl coming up. Super Bowl preview. Got Dodge, Caden back. They're fully recovered from their vacation off. Yes, they haven't been on in a while. I knew they put in a lot of work for that 50th episode. So here we are at episode 53. And we got some legacy questions. Is Andy Reid gonna come into the spot as the best coach of all time if he wins the Super Bowl? And more, maybe we'll see, and maybe even how to fix the Pro Bowl, a little Oklahoma City drill question mark. We'll see. So make sure to stay tuned, boys. Welcome to the Logical Nonsense Podcast. How are we doing today?
I'm
Feeling
doing well.
great.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Feeling good as always.
Feeling good as always. We like to hear that, Cade. You know what we also like to hear? It's Super Bowl weekend, boys. It's the biggest week in football. What a matchup. We got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, this team that nobody thought would make it to the Super Bowl again. We continue to doubt the Chiefs year after year. First it was, nah, they don't got Tyreek. You know, they ain't making it a Super Bowl this year. Now it's, this offense is fucking trash. Ain't no way they're making it a Super Bowl. Kadarius Toney is a toxic motherfucker. They still did it. They still found a way. And I think it's all thanks to a man by the name of Steve Spagnuolo. What a performance in the AFC Championship game. Let's start there. Let's start with the AFC Championship game and Steve Spagnuolo's performance. Dodge, I know you love a good defensive performance. What did you think of that?
That's true. The Chiefs defense has been, the thing that's really helping the Chiefs get through this playoff run and also like throughout the season and getting into playoffs in general.
Yeah.
So that's been, his defense has been really impressive all year. The 3 turnovers in that game is obviously the difference maker. And you know what? They just showed up and dominated on defense, a team that people thought was like unstoppable. I mean, if we go back to the Ravens beating the Niners
They've
on
been
that Sunday
dominant
night
all year
game,
long,
yeah.
yeah.
And people were like, the Ravens are the best team.
Reasonably
You know?
so, though, right? That wasn't even a hot
Yeah,
take.
no, it
They were
wasn't a
just
hot take.
dominating good teams. They weren't even just beating,
They beat the
bad teams like the
Seahawks, the
Cowboys,
Lions, and
but they were they were beating good teams like the Lions and,
the
whatever. I
Niners.
wasn't saying the Cowboys were bad teams. I was saying the Cowboys were beating bad teams,
No, they're a bad
But sure.
team. It's okay.
Okay, what do you think about this KC defense?
Yeah. I think the best part about that AFC Championship game was the way they limited the running game for the Ravens. The Ravens like to run it 30, 40 times a game.
Yeah.
They get a lead, they dominate, and they held them under 100 yards. The running backs only had like 8 carries.
Yeah.
And so
ridiculous.
the way they controlled that game, credit to the offense too, to get them in the lead where the Ravens had to play kind of from behind, but just to be able to contain Lamar in that run game was something that was huge.
Yeah, it just felt like the Chiefs, the way they were able to slow the game down so much, they really were in control. You looked at the time of possession that first half, especially, nuts. It was like 15 minutes to like 8 at one point. It was like 50% more than the Ravens had. And when you are able to do that as an offense, it's like really hard, especially when, your first drive on the Ravens, you go 3 and out. And then you turn the ball over. You give up 5 15-yard penalties in a game. That's going to hurt you, man. Like the penalties with the turnovers. I mean, this Ravens team, this offense just felt rattled the entire game. They didn't go back to their DNA at all. We're so used to seeing them dominate in the run, and all of a sudden they're trying to pass all the time. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's not Lamar's strength.
I thought it was poor play calling as well of the Ravens OC.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the run game was getting, other than Lamar, really it was getting pretty stuffed. But like you've got to stick the game was relatively close because the Ravens D, especially in the second half, showed
Yeah.
up and played dominant as well.
Mhm.
But you're only down like 2-possession game or at the end a 1-possession game. Stick to your don't change it. Like
Yeah.
the fact that they had 16 total carries and 8 of those are Lamar. Half of Lamar's rushes, if not more, were just scrambles. You know, the play
Yeah.
calling for me was all off for the Ravens because they didn't stick to what was in their DNA as well. And I think that's also a credit to the Chiefs D. But
And this could just be me, but do you guys feel like the Ravens panicked?
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Big time.
Okay.
I think Lamar
Because
panicked a little bit
Yep.
too.
yeah, I mean, I hate when I tell myself that I'm right, that Lamar's a regular season quarterback and not a playoff quarterback, but time and time again I get proven right, and so I'm sorry, but, this is like the 4th time this year, I called Miami fraudulent. Uh-oh. Called Ravens and the Lamar hype fraudulent. Alright, I'll stop, this isn't about me. But you know what I'm saying, like, people call Lamar the MVP this year. We can go back to that conversation. And obviously, postseason, much different. It's a regular season trophy. But again, Lamar Jackson is a regular season quarterback, and he will be given that title until he can prove otherwise.
In Lamar's defense, he is by far the best player on that offense. So
Yeah.
I do think if he had more weapons around him, he could do better, especially in playoffs. But obviously it's not up to like Mahomes' level or like Burrow in the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't know. It kind of seemed to me that like it all rested on Lamar's shoulders in that game, and he's
Okay,
just
but
not.
I have a question for
I
you,
also
dog.
didn't think he was the MVP in the regular season.
Wait,
I don't
I
see
have a
that.
question for you though. You talk about weapons. Which weapons would you rather have? Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson's?
No,
Because Lamar's got Mark
obviously,
Andrews. He's
yeah,
got Isaiah Lively. That's his name, right? Likely,
Likely.
yeah, likely.
exactly.
And then he's also got Zay Flowers, Gus Edwards, and I don't know why they use Justice Hill as much as they did this game, but Justice Hill.
No, Lamar and the Ravens had more. There's more offensive talent at the skill position than the Chiefs. That's one thing that's been hampering the Chiefs all year, and I think they'll go out and they'll get a receiver in the draft or in free
God, I hope
agency
so. I hope so, man.
because Mahomes is good enough to get it done,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we see from the great quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Brady, good
Yeah.
enough to get it done. It wasn't always the prettiest stat line every time, out of every quarterback, although he had many pretty stat lines, but essentially every quarterback needs something, right, to work with. And Lamar needs more than Mahomes. He's just not as good.
Yeah, and I don't even think that's a hot take.
No, I don't even
So,
think Lamar, like, even when he was crowned MVP, we had conversations about this, but there are a handful of quarterbacks that are notably better than Lamar Jackson. Like,
yeah.
to me, it's not that debatable. They just are. But
Yeah.
he's obviously
Yeah.
a good quarterback. But not
Okay, do you
a,
got anything else to comment on this game?
Just on this game, I will say when we're talking about the Chiefs defense, they kind of have this bend don't break mentality to them this
Yeah.
year because the second half the Ravens move the ball and then they get burned deep. Next play they force a fumble in the end zone,
Yeah.
and that play right there was a huge shift in the game because the Ravens defense was playing outstanding in that second half. They score that touchdown. Who knows what happens? You don't throw an interception on the 20-yard line into triple coverage. That was a terrible decision. And you hold them to a field goal inside the red zone. So this Chiefs defense, they've been really playing a lot of bend don't break, and that's kind of their identity this year. And they're going to need that again in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So let's transition into that. If you're the Chiefs, you're going into this game. What's the best game plan for them against this Niners team?
I think I don't know, Brandon Ayuk is kind of a sneaky player, and I think he's going to be someone that they're going to try to utilize a lot. So being able to limit his downfield presence is going to be key. Everyone knows McCaffrey's going to get his 20 touches. I think being able to tackle him in space is going to be key because they're going to do a lot of screen passes to him. And then obviously Debo. So it's hard to pick your targets. I think if you're the Chiefs, when the Niners are just so loaded on offense.
Yeah.
But I think you got to key in on just tackling in space. Being fundamental is probably going to be the biggest key. And
Yeah.
not letting the moment get to you and getting flustered.
Yeah. If you're the Chiefs, Dodge, I'll let you go in just one sec. If you're the Chiefs, are you speeding up the game or are you slowing down the game like you did last time?
I'm slowing down the game, personally.
Okay. Dodge, what's your game plan for the Chiefs?
Defensively? Or both? Yeah.
You can talk about both if you want. I don't care.
So when we talked about slowing down the game, I guess I'll expand on that first. I think that feeds into the Chiefs' DNA for this season's team. The offense is not super explosive. Although Kelce turned back the clock 5 years last game.
Shit. Brother's body is hurting.
I think he's got, like, I don't know if he can just flip the switch like that for the postseason or whatnot, but, he's going to give it his all to win another Super Bowl, of course. So we'll see how that goes. But, I'm slowing the game down. They run the ball well on offense. And as long as they have Kelce at a high level with Mahomes, you'll be able to move the ball for consistent yards. But that Niners offense is a juggernaut. Like, I'm worried about the Chiefs in that regard because if you remember the AFC Championship game, Zay Flowers was just getting open randomly on blown coverage. And the fact is that you've got 4 guys, you've got more weapons now to pay attention to. And a blown coverage is going to be a touchdown. So I think that's even
fair point.
Worse in that sense. But I need to rattle Brock Purdy. That's the only thing that I've been able to see from like that Ravens game. Is like if you rattle Brock Purdy early and often, it's possible that being a second-year player, he doesn't come back from that within the time frame he needs to.
Yeah. I think we need another masterful performance by Spagnuolo again. Because, like you said, if he can rattle Purdy, you're not going to stop. Like, this reminds me of NBA in this way. You're not going to stop LeBron, right? You're not going to stop McCaffrey. You need to limit him. And if they can somehow limit him, not getting to the edge, obviously, that's always a rule in sports, right? In football, always set the edge. Make an emphasis on it this week. And, maybe, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Spagnuolo comes with because, like you said, Dodge, this is a much different team. They have, I would say, a much diverse offense, whereas it felt like, yes, had the Ravens been dominant all year, absolutely, but it felt like their diversity was in their run game, and they didn't really bring that out, whereas the Niners can be dynamic in both their run game, their pass game, and their screen game, and that's the genius of Shanahan, and that's something that is a huge challenge to this Chiefs team. And the fact of the matter is, if this is a shootout, my money's on the Niners because they have the much better prolific offense, much more explosive offense. But I will say this about the Chiefs. I don't think this Niners defense is as good as we predicted it to be. On paper, it's really good. But if you've looked at their last 2 or so games, they let Jordan Love pass all over them. And then this last game, if the Lions don't have some drops and some miscues on offense, they probably win in that game. They put up 24 on them in the first half. I think this defense, I mean, obviously they turned it up the second half, right? We saw them pull up in the second half. But I think this defense is slightly overrated. But I still don't think the Chiefs offense can hold up.
Yeah, I think the Niners D, for some reason in that Lions game, shifting the NFC now, it was like sleepwalking.
Yeah.
It did not look like it kind of looked like they thought they already had it sewn up, which it super
Disrespect.
surprising. Um, it's just that it was really bad to see in that first half. I think there's no way they come out in the Super Bowl sleepwalking. I mean, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
For all the star power on that team,
Yeah. You
they
got
should be
Chase
better.
Young, Nick Bosa, Armstead, like freaking Hargrave too, right? I mean,
The
this team should be
linebackers,
unstoppable. Oh yeah, Fred Warner and I
Dre
mean,
Greenlaw.
are you kidding me? Although isn't Greenlaw hurt or something?
Yeah, it looked like he maybe dislocated his shoulder last week, but I think they popped it back in and he went back out there. So
Okay.
I think he's
All
playing.
right.
I'll look it
All
up.
right.
I think for the Chiefs, a big key to this game is not letting the Niners get momentum, because once they get momentum and they get rolling, like we
True.
saw in the Lions game, they're just become unstoppable. They're going to need to sustain long drives, long scoring drives, probably keep this game, 24, 21 points in that ballpark if they're going to want to come out and win. Because as soon as, you start turning the ball over or letting the
Yeah.
Niners beat you downfield, it's going to be tough to beat that momentum and all that star power that the Niners
Yeah.
have.
Momentum's a great point to bring up too, because we've seen the resilience of this 49ers team, right? We honestly, 2 games in a row, they probably shouldn't have won either of them. Green Bay, low-key Green Bay should have won that game. Somehow the Niners pulled it off. Lions, well, we saw that disaster too. I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like there's something to be said about teams that deal with adversity and know how to come back from something. So, if the Chiefs get an early lead, don't count the Niners out.
Also, so I looked up Greenlaw's injury. They called it a stinger, but I don't think an NFL player is coming out for a stinger, personally.
I mean, according to NCAA football, they are, but all right. Well,
Sorry.
no. It's interesting that they did do that. Let's shift gears a little bit. What are your guys's predictions for how the game will? We talked about some game plans, what we think both teams should do. What do you think how do you think the game will actually turn out? Are we
I think
getting a
it'll be a good
shootout? Are
game.
we getting a defensive game?
I think it'll be a good game. I don't think you could call it. I think what we're going to see is not either a shootout or a defensive game. I think we're going to get scoring in the 20s, a pretty
Yeah.
average,
Yeah.
Performance. My money's going to be on the Niners just
Okay.
because I don't see how they stop the Niners offense, especially if Purdy's playing well. If the Niners defense shows up with the energy and passion that they should, they have enough star power to stop the Chiefs. You can double Kelce.
Yep.
The only other real threat you have to worry about on the Chiefs is Rashee Rice. You don't.
Yeah.
MVS, Tony.
Mm.
You might want him throwing it to Tony. So it'll be
He's
more
not gonna
about
catch
similar to stopping LeBron, right? You can't stop LeBron. You can't stop Mahomes. Mahomes will get yards. Mahomes will get touchdowns.
Yep.
But if you limit who he can pass the ball to,
well, fuck. Neither the Ravens nor the fucking what was the other team they played? Oh god, who did the Chiefs play first round? Bills. Bills, but then Dolphins. Dolphins, Bills. Anybody watch tape? There's a man named Travis Kelce. He wears the number 87. Holy shit. How many fucking good games does he have to have in a row? My God.
That's facts.
I'm sorry. He's not that great of a route runner. He's not. He's a good receiver.
He finds space.
But
That's his unique
he just
ability.
finds space. Like, you feel like and this is me sitting on a fucking couch telling you guys how to play defense, right? But Jesus Christ, man, look at their roster. Who are you gonna guard? Like, I'd rather give it to Rashee Rice every day. Like, god damn it, man. God. Okay, what you got?
Ooh, I think this first half of this game, we're going to kind of see like a coaching kind of chess match out there.
I like that.
You know, two high-end level coaches that come in with their game plans. It's going to be slower paced. I feel like we're going to be something around 10-10 tied going into half, somewhere around that ballpark. And then late into the third, when it gets more intense, teams start firing. I think we could see a high-powered, you know, kind of end to this game. And how funny would it be if Kadarius Toney goes out there and makes a game-winning Super Bowl play? Like, how crazy would the script writers have to be to do something like that?
Hey, I've got a better one for you.
A Super Bowl winning play.
Super Bowl MVP.
Kadarius Toney. You guys are missing the script writing. He'll make a Super Bowl game-changing play for the Niners.
No. You want to talk about script? Here's the script, guys. Here's the script. The Chiefs win it. Game-winning play to Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce proposes at the center of the end zone to Taylor Swift, and they fucking make out in front of cameras. Is the highest rated Super Bowl we've ever seen in our lives.
No chance.
That's my prediction right there.
Yeah, I'll bet you money that doesn't happen.
I feel like here's the thing. Here's what I struggle with. Like, I feel like I want to pick the Niners, right? Like, it makes sense. I think they are the better team. I think they have the better tools and are better set up for this game, personally. I think they, like, in terms of a matchup, I think they are matched up very well. But it's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
We continue to
you would have said that
count
about
this
the Ravens
team out, and we've done this how many times? But I'll go with my original. I'll stick to my receipts, and I'll go with the Niners. I think they're going to come out in a very close game. Yeah. Anything else before I? What's up? Oh, we want to go score predictions. All right, I'll go first. Give me like a weird score. I'm gonna go 26-24.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking similar ballpark. 27-21 Niners. Get it done.
We all three got Niners. I don't like this.
I don't like
this. We're gonna look like tools that Sunday.
Right. If we jinx them, that's fine with me.
That's true. I don't like the Niners. Being a Seahawks fan, you know, like.
All right, hey, Jill. Okay, it's the Chiefs. They're in my division. All right, come on now.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, I'm gonna go 28-27 Niners.
Oh, 1 point game. Damn. Okay. All right. Well, there's our predictions.
Now Purdy in the clutch, maybe.
Let's talk about some. Let's talk about some legacies. Okay. So, let's start out with an interesting one, and I think this one's honestly, when I was thinking about legacies, I think this one to me is the easiest. If Patrick, so I want you to talk about what will happen if Patrick Mahomes wins this Super Bowl for his legacy, and how it'll change his legacy if he loses. Okay, let's start with you.
All right. If Mahomes wins, it puts him at 3 Super Bowl wins, 2 Super Bowl losses in what years he in? 6, 7 right now, which is a crazy hot start. You know, 6 AFC championships in a row. He's only 28 years old, which obviously is an amazing start for any quarterback, especially when you're thinking of a legacy. Still got, you know, a good 8 to 10 years if he really can keep himself healthy. So, you know, not many quarterbacks even have 3 Super Bowls throughout their whole career. So I think it puts him up in a conversation as one of the all-time best, but he's still not quite there yet. But he's still got, 10 years to cement himself up there. If he loses, I don't think it really takes that much of a hit on his legacy, just because we all know how good he is. And it's kind of like LeBron, right? LeBron's got a negative finals record, and he's still the greatest basketball player of all time.
Whoa.
On the line, on the cusp, potentially. Depends on your viewpoints, but right, like, so I mean, 2 and 3, and Mahomes still has 10 years, so he goes 2 and 3, he can go win 3 more Super Bowls. So I don't really think it affects it too much as a negative, but
That's what I thought. Yeah.
as a positive, it's definitely
Could
more
cement
impactful.
him. Yeah. Agreed. Dodge.
Yeah. So because being 3-1, you're getting to a point where you're winning a lot more than you lose in the Super Bowl, right? Where maybe you go to maybe you win 6 out of 7 Super Bowls. Like that would be crazy record. We're talking about Jordan numbers, right?
Yeah.
Versus if he loses, that's 2 and 2, that's even. And maybe that starts to look more like Braun in the NBA, where I think he's like what, 3 and 6? Is that right? 4 and 6?
I think he's
something
4
like
and
that.
6 or something. Yeah, I think he's 4 and 6. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Anyway.
Exact numbers,
but ultimately, I do think either way, he's got a long time on his career still. He's been a very durable quarterback. Yes, he every once in a while he gets an ankle sprain or whatnot, but he's been very durable throughout his time playing, every year, majority of the games by a long shot, if not every game. So I think he's got a lot of years left, and some people are quick maybe to crown him Brady status.
Yeah.
But it isn't Brady status. Like
But he's on the track to it.
On track. Yes. It's a lot like Mike. We talk about these greats in all these other sports now, but it's sort of like how Mike Trout was early in his career.
Yep.
He's on pace early in his career. He's on pace to be the best MLB player of all time. No question. He's going to be a part of the 500 home run club, 300 stolen bags. Now the stolen bags have dropped off, right? But it's similar with this Mahomes thing and the fact that he's on pace to be the greatest of all time. There's no doubt about it.
It's just where he takes it. Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, he's consistently one of the top quarterbacks year in, year out. And he's almost got a Brady status in the league where people root against him.
Yeah.
And you can't this season really cemented something, as in you never can count out Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Similar to you could never count out Bill and Brady.
True.
And so I think that's something to watch out for future years as well.
Absolutely. And that's the point I was going to go to. If he wins this, here's what I want to say. If he wins this, we've seen some great teams that Mahomes has been on, right? If Mahomes can win this Super Bowl with this offense, I think this cements him as the best player in football, period. Like, there's no debate. And there might be some debate, but I seriously think, like, the way if he's able to have not only win this, but have a good performance in the Super Bowl, be like offensively prolific and just show off, right? People will be talking about how legendary this performance is and how he was able to carry a team that nobody believed in. That might get lost, right? We always forget about how good teams are later on. But if he loses, I don't think it affects him that much. Like Caden said, he's been to 6 straight AFC championship games. This is his 4th Super Bowl in those 6 years. That's crazy dominant. And like, he's just starting. Like, he had a 10-year contract in like 2020. Like, he still has so many years left with this team. We don't know when it's going to stop. It's the beginning of a dynasty that you can see. And I think it's just going to get scarier as he gets better and matures as an athlete, because we don't know if we've seen this guy's peak yet. So I don't think it hurts him that much if he loses. but I do think it could cement him even further into the talks. And I think people are already starting to talk about like, oh, is he on the Brady path? I think people are really going to start talking about it if he wins this.
I still think it's too early to do that, though.
I
Like,
know, but people will still do it.
yeah. I guess that's why I also think that, like, no matter if he wins or loses, he's on a good path regardless.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that winning or losing this particular one when he could have 3 or 4 or 5 down the future
Yeah. One other
changes
thing too. Look at like we just talked about this 49ers roster, right? If he's able to defeat that team with his offense, are you kidding me, man? Oh my god. Crazy. David and Goliath. It I know I hate, doing parallels, but it feels a hell of a lot like that Cavs team beating the Warriors that year. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But all right. Next legacy question. How does this affect Andy Reid? The reason why I want to ask this, I want to preface this. Before Andy Reid got to the Chiefs, a lot of people considered Andy Reid one of the best coaches to never win a Super Bowl. He finally got in Super Bowl, and if he wins, he gets 3. If he loses, he's now like, is he 2-3 now?
He's
Yeah.
2-2 right now, and then 2-3 with a loss.
Yep. Okay, that's
Yep,
what I thought. So, what do you think? How does this cement his legacy?
I think it's hard to argue against him being, one of the best coaches of all times if he wins it, because there's only 5 coaches, I think, that have 3 or more Super Bowl rings. And to be able to do that, obviously he's had Mahomes to help him out, but being able to be in this position so many years in a row and to win your 3rd, I think definitely cements him up there in like a top 5 coaching of all time. And if you lose, I don't think it affects his legacy that much, because we know he's a good coach and he can game plan very well. They've been dominant the last 6 or 7 years. So I don't think a loss affects him as much, because people know how good he is. But I think a win definitely has a more impact on his legacy and the all-time status.
Definitely. I agree with that as well. No matter how many Reid and Mahomes win, though, I'm not sure Reid will ever surpass Bill
Ooh.
in the greatest. Like, he could win more Super Bowls with Mahomes, and I'm not sure that he's better than Bill when it comes to that
Ooh.
argument. And here's my reason why. Brady and Bill beat Reid, and it was McNabb, right,
Yeah.
in that Super Bowl.
So
And
there's direct, yeah.
yeah, and honestly, I thought they had pretty even teams in that Super Bowl. That's one of my favorite Super Bowls to watch. Obviously he has Mahomes now, which I don't want to start any McNabb hate because I love McNabb, but obviously not Mahomes. But Brady and Bill had something together that was like inevitable. And while the Reid and Mahomes is becoming that question too, to me it feels more like Mahomes is a bigger part of that factor
Then Reid is.
than Reid. Yeah. At least comparatively to how Brady and Bill were. People will say that, well, Bill's not in the league anymore, so is he really good? Was it just Brady carrying him this whole time? I hear you, but at the same time, I think Reid's more adaptable, being an offensive-minded person, to this new league that emphasizes passing. But I don't know. I think Bill will always be better than Reid.
Hmm.
Whereas Mahomes, I think, could surpass Brady.
Yeah. It's
So
interesting because like we'll put like them as a pairing, right? So Tom and Bill versus Reid and Mahomes. Tom has a direct win over Patrick Mahomes, and Bill and Tom have a direct win over Andy Reid. So it's interesting you bring that up. I think this loss, while I don't think it'll change much, I do think, like, if he wins, I do think it elevates him a little bit more. I think people with this roster, with this team, I think people will start to put him in that top 5, top 3 list if he's not already. I think they will seriously consider it even more, as some of the greats, if he wins this against this team again. So, that's my take for Reid. Now to Travis Kelce. The reason why I wanna ask this one, does this make Travis Kelce the best tight end of all time if he wins it? Or does it matter?
This is an interesting
I
thing
know.
because tight ends, receiving tight end, there's no doubt he's
Yes.
already the best ever, and it doesn't matter what happens here, right? The question is that tight ends have to block too, right?
Yes,
Gronk
and
was a great
he's been blocking
blocker.
lately.
I hear you, but Gronk was a great blocker.
Yeah.
Kittle, for example, in the
Yeah.
Super Bowl is a better blocker than Kelce. I think if he shows up and turns back the clock like he has this postseason, it's going to be hard to deny him best tight end of all time because I mean he just puts up dazzling performances and wonderful catches every game in this postseason,
Mhm.
and it's just beautiful to watch. So
I'm going to say yes. This will make him the greatest tight end of all time, just because right now he's basically the only offensive player on the Chiefs that can
Ooh.
catch a pass, and without him, they would not be in this position. So I think overall he just has a bigger influence. And Gronk was amazing, but man, I think just in the way the NFL has evolved, the way Kelce's been able to adapt into that receiving tight end role and gets 1,000 yards every season, it seems like, at least. And the way he's carried him this playoffs, I think it easily could make him the greatest tight end of all time.
Okay. Okay. I also think it would be impressive if he can turn it up and win because of his age. He's like, what, 34 now?
Mhm.
Be
yeah,
pretty
something like that.
insane if he can put up another game like he did last game. I'll also say yes. I think it will solidify him as the best tight end of all time. It hurts me to say that. I do think Gronk was cut short a little bit because, like, he had his
Injuries.
retirement year, then he came back, and then I don't know. I just feel like there was more in store for Gronk that we could have seen, and he also had some injury years, which we forget about, right? And so
He got beat
I
up a
think,
lot.
yeah, I think Gronk honestly could have had a better career than Kelce, but I think Kelce's longevity and willingness to, like, continue to play, and I think it'll outlast um, Gronk. And so I think if he wins, I think it'll be hard to deny it. So heard it here first, folks. Kelce is the best tight end ever and will be forever. No, I'm just kidding. Going to the other side of the ball, this is where it gets real interesting. If lay the scenario, if Brock Purdy wins, where do we have his path? And if he loses, do we go back to all the criticism, all the game manager tags, all the he doesn't deserve to be whatever? Do you think that's the narrative?
I think
think
that's the
that
narrative,
No,
unfortunately.
I know, but if he wins, do you think that changes? I'll go first this time.
Mhm.
I'll take the pressure off. I think it does. I think if he wins, you can't deny what this guy has done. I said it last pod. He's in his second year. Nobody talks about that. Nobody does, right? We talk about all the time. Give Justin Fields time. Give Justin Fields time. Give Trevor Lawrence time. Give Trevor Lawrence time. Give whatever young quarterback you want to insert, give him time, right? Let him develop. Where the hell was that with Brock Purdy? Nowhere. You don't hear it once in a conversation. All you hear is, oh, he's got so many weapons on his team, and he does. He does, right? That's what makes a good team. But watch him throw the actual ball. Does he have bad games? Yes. Again, he's young. But he can make a lot of good throws. And he can get to the ball to the guys when it matters. Look at his last game. He was able to use his legs in the clutch when it mattered, right? I think if he wins this game, he proves that he's not just a game manager, but a player who can lead a team to the Super Bowl and win, which not every quarterback's able to do. And I also one more thing, because I see you thinking, Dodge. I see you thinking. I think the only way that happens is if Brock Purdy has a good performance in this as well.
Yeah. So here's the thing. For some reason, there is hate for Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a lot of it. A lot
I
of
don't I don't know what it is. He is the underdog story. Talk about Daniel versus Goliath.
it. Yeah.
We have Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, against people call possibly the greatest of all time in Mahomes.
Yep.
Daniel versus Goliath. Like, all I'm saying here is Purdy does not deserve the hate. He never did deserve the hate. This is his first season starting.
Yeah.
Last year, he was not the starter at the start of the year. He's had one offseason. It was this offseason.
Yeah.
And
That's what I'm saying.
He played wonderfully this season. Like, people forget that. But, like, statistically, he was the best quarterback this year. He was. Yeah. Like, I don't even, like, there's not even arguing. Even when you add in rushing statistics, he was the best quarterback this year, statistically speaking, you know? And yes, he has all these weapons. I think he'll continue to be treated unfairly for the rest of his career until the team like has less star talent. So I think that's the unfortunate part of this. For me, if he wins, I don't put him on any trajectory yet. Just because it's been one Super Bowl, right? Yeah. And we've seen this before where someone can get a Super Bowl and they just
Flacco.
Yeah, they just never get back, right?
Yep. Rodgers.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I knew that would get you. I knew that would get you.
I don't like that. You know, Rodgers could get back, A. And I also want to talk about this game manager versus game changer argument here, because I think there are truly only a couple quarterbacks throughout their career that I would call game changers that are currently playing. I would say
Cam Newton isn't one of them.
For a season, he was. Rodgers and Mahomes are the two only current quarterbacks that I think are game changers.
Hot take. Bold takes on the Logical Nonsense podcast.
There are other quarterbacks that I might call tweeners. You know, they have moments that change the game, right? And they're also game managers. But being a good game manager is also super underrated. You can win Super Bowls being a good game manager. When did that become a bad thing? When did accuracy become a bad thing? When did processing which guy you should throw it to become a bad thing?
Yeah.
Like, this is half the battle. Is being like
quarterback position is hard, yeah.
Every good quarterback has game-changing talent and game managing talent, right?
Yeah.
And both have to be together. Like,
yep.
You know, if you're a bad game manager, you have bad decision making, you're not very accurate. You're looking at Josh Allen season 2.
Yeah.
Tremendous talent, raw. You know, everybody would call Josh Allen a game changer from the very start of his career because he's got that ability. But the accuracy at the start of his career was poor, and his decision making still isn't the best. So what are we talking about? Like, Purdy to me has been playing great ever since he entered the league. How this changes his legacy, I think if he gets here once and wins, like he'll have a Super Bowl, right? But if he loses and never comes back, then it will be a big difference.
Yeah.
If he's constantly coming back, then it doesn't change a whole lot. But
Okay.
Sorry, my soapbox.
Oh,
Damn. Dodge had a lot of feelings about
went
Purdy.
off.
He got tweeted at him once. What, Caden?
I agree with what a lot of Dodge had to say. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Purdy in this game for, no reason, really. If you were to tell me the last pick in the draft would be the Super Bowl in year 2 and didn't tell me what team he played on, I'd think, wow, that guy must be, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league right now, playing at extremely well level. But since he plays for the 49ers, I think that stems towards a lot of the hate that he gets because they're such a prolific NFL franchise and they're expected to win and be great. It's kind of like, Cowboys with Dak, he gets a lot of unnecessary hate. Purdy with the Niners, kind of the same boat there. And if he wins, I feel like people will be like, oh, well, he was supposed to win. Look at everyone else, not him. Look at everyone else. And if he loses, it's because the social media, the media is going to go absolutely off on him.
Oh God.
Which is very unwarranted. He was the last pick in the draft and, unnecessary. But I feel if he wins, it's a good start for his legacy. Could put him on a path, but we don't know, how this Niners team's going to shape out the next couple of years. They have so many talented players, where they go financially, can they get back kind of thing. But if he loses, I just hope it doesn't, put him on a downward trajectory because he is a good quarterback and he does make, plays when he needs to. And so I don't know. This is just a lot of pressure for him in this game, and I hope he comes out and plays well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm rooting for Brock Purdy through and through if that didn't come through as well.
Yeah, he gets way too much hate. Like I said it last pod too. Like he just does. It's truly unfair the amount of. Anyways, let's go to our next legacy question. How does this change Christian McCaffrey's legacy? And here's something I want to pose to you guys. Talked a lot about the running back position, right? How a lot of teams, they don't need running back. Like they don't need to pay one running back a lot of money because, well, hell, there's bloated of them, right? Like the game's changed a lot. It's become more of a passing game. It's not the big running game anymore. I would say Christian McCaffrey has similar parallels or potential to be similar parallel changing the game as Steph Curry was to NBA. If we see him win a Super Bowl with the 49ers. You see what this man has done on both the ground game and the receiving game and how athletic he is as that person and how they're able to use Christian McCaffrey and utilize him and really revolve the game around him. We could see more teams looking for players like CMC, which is hard to do. But I think there's potential for that.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Ooh,
and
bold takes.
Here's why. Steph Curry changed the game with shooting threes, right? Something that everyone can do and can get better at. And there's obviously a natural talent of Steph Curry. That's why he's the greatest shooter, right? But Christian McCaffrey does things that I'm not sure any other running back in the league can do.
You think he's just unreachable. It's not that you think that teams won't look for his talent. It's more so you don't think people can reach his talent. Ever.
I don't think anyone can replicate it. You know, I don't think you'll see teams trying to replicate a Christian McCaffrey because they'll be looking for a good running back, obviously. But it'll be through the draft. And also finding a Christian McCaffrey it's a once in a generation talent. you know,
Okay.
and I don't think it's replicatable among any other running back I've seen in the NFL or in college.
Okay.
So that's the one difference that I have for Christian McCaffrey's legacy. I think it matters a lot
Ooh. How
because
so?
well, if he doesn't win and he never gets to win, right? People
Yeah.
will say, "Well, it's a passing league. How much do running backs matter anyway?"
True.
Right? And I think unfortunately his name will get lost in the
Great running backs that were what they
well, not
were.
even the great running backs. That it won't even show up because he, he doesn't have an MVP, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, but I bet he gets it. I would bet
If
he
he
would get
win,
offensive player of the year is what I think he's gonna get this year.
oh
But
yeah, okay, fair enough. No one remembers those though. Only people only remember MVPs. Which he arguably should have been the MVP this season. It definitely should not be Lamar. We'll see what happens. But if he wins the Super Bowl, I think his name will be remembered among the historic greats running backs because I think if they win the Super Bowl, he's got a ring. I think if they win the Super Bowl, he's probably him or Debo is getting Super Bowl MVP or Purdy, depending on the three of them.
yeah.
But I think most likely to win the Super Bowl MVP is him.
Yeah.
And obviously that would be the Niners win, which we need to also talk about the Niners legacy after this as well, because
Yeah.
they've been close a lot.
Yep.
As far, I'm gonna say, as like the replicability of a person like Christian McCaffrey and getting that running back that can play in a running receiving role, I think it's kind of a reach for a lot of teams just because of the injury aspect to it. This is the first year in a long time McCaffrey has been fully healthy, which just shows the kind of the wear and tear of someone that can run and receive like that. And you see a lot of teams are trying it with a lot of these young guys. I think Jahmyr Gibbs this year was kind of used in that role a lot, and he was probably one of the more successful running backs. But running backs in the league this day, they're not as valuable just because of that injury aspect. And all those running backs got together this offseason, and then most of them kind of got injured this year, looking at like Saquon per se. But so from that aspect, I think this Super Bowl also plays a huge key into McCaffrey's legacy. Like you guys said, if he wins and puts up a good stat line that helps lead him to Super Bowl victory, it's probably one of the most dominating running back seasons in a long time. And if he loses, he'll probably be forgotten, like Dodge said.
Oh,
So I don't know.
interesting.
Is
I
tough, but I think this is very key for him because who knows, if they'll get back to this stage, if he's going to be able to stay healthy. He's had that injury problem his whole career.
It's interesting to me that you guys think he's gonna be forgotten. Just because
This isn't a running back era.
I
This is
know,
all
but it's
about
just
the
tough. I'm
quarterback
like
and
trying to think of
receivers.
like running backs. It's like I guess he could be lost. Like I think of like people who've had like really great seasons. Like I guess like the one that comes to mind that keeps coming to mind right now is like Chris Johnson, right? Like he had that 2,000-yard season,
And
but
he
now
won
he's
an
kind of
MVP,
forgotten.
right?
I don't know. I don't know who the
I think
last
Yep.
I
running
think he
back
won an
was that
MVP.
got an MVP,
I
but
think Adrian
Derrick
Peterson.
Henry?
oh,
Did
Adrian
Did Derrick
Peterson.
Henry not?
That's a good one. Adrian Peterson, right?
Did Derrick Henry not
Adrian
win an MVP?
Peterson, but he got an MVP, so I guess Derrick Henry did not get MVP.
So
It's tough.
it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough because Derrick Henry's name should be in the history books. It should be.
Okay.
But will
Last
he be
legacy
forgotten too?
question. We're starting to run out a little bit of time, but Kyle Shanahan / the Niners legacy, win or lose? Cade, let's start with you.
Go with the Niners first as a organization. They have their 5 Super Bowl wins, but they haven't won one since '94, which is big for them. Like, they've been there obviously a couple times. They lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Chiefs a couple years back. So I think this would be a big win for them. It's not a problem of them getting there, in the last decade or two. It's the problem of them finishing out, and they've had the talent and they've had the coaching. So I think this Super Bowl is a big statement for them, especially with how talented the NFC is becoming on the top end. Who knows if they'll be able to make it back. So for the Niners, I think they can get back here. Obviously, they have the talent to, but this is a big one for them, and especially one where they should win on paper. Like, this is a good statement for the organization. And then Shanahan, he's still, a relatively young coach in the league. And I think this would be a big win for him too, because of how everyone perceives him as, one of the best coaches already for his stature in the league. So I think this is a big one for them, especially because it's winnable.
Yeah, I think this matters a lot more for the Niners than it does for Shanahan, just because Shanahan's got a lot more time left, and people already regard him as a top coach in the league, and he probably will be regarded as a top coach in the league for the next decade. But for the Niners, obviously we're coming to a problem of talent and financial problems, because they're not going to be able to keep everybody. The only reason that they can now is because Purdy's on a rookie salary, saddle, which should that feed into him being the MVP too? Maybe, right? Like, it's only costing them $800,000 producing this. But for the Niners, if they don't win here, I'm not sure that they'll ever be considered the dominant NFC. Yeah, like, they've been the dominant NFC team for a while, the past handful of years, but they're on the brink of a dynasty, but they haven't been able to win Super Bowls. And the thing about a dynasty is you have to win Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And this can be the start of something that could lead to a dynasty. But if they don't win here, it gets difficult to see where the dynasty starts.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to point out one thing. Kyle Shanahan loses this. As a overall coach, he is now 0-3 in Super Bowls. A lot of people forget he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons in their disastrous loss to the Patriots. He now would lose that game. He lost now to the Chiefs twice. So he's been the losing end on what people, if they lose, would say two different dynasties. The Chiefs and the Patriots. And I think part of being a good coach is being able to take down those dynasties sometimes, right? Like, Tom Coughlin, whether you like him or not, he was able to beat dynasty, like, he did it twice. Like, I don't know. I think there's something to be said about that. And I think, like you guys said, this win actually means, I think, more to the Niners than it does the Chiefs for that reason. They have been so close so many times, and honestly, I think their fans at this point are like, we're the best in the league. Like, just things haven't gone our way. It's like, okay, well, everything has gone your way. What's your excuse now if you lose? Right? So
I think you bring up
definitely means a lot to the organization. What's up?
I think you bring up a good point with Shanahan too.
Yeah.
If he loses, could he ever be considered
a good coach?
As good as Reid and Brady? Like, could
yeah,
he ever get
in that conversation?
Those?
Yeah. No, it's I mean, not. I think a lot of people don't, like, they forget that Shanahan was that OC, right? And then he loses that first Super Bowl, which is like, there was a lot. That Super Bowl was low key kind of weird. Like, I feel like I look back at that and like the Niners, like, they were good, but it was like, oh wow, the Niners are here. And then like the Chiefs, they were like, whoa, the Chiefs, are they on the start of something too? Like this Patrick Mahomes guy, who's this, and then the Niners blow the lead. I don't know. It was just kind of a weird Super Bowl. Like, I liked it, but it was just kind of a weird one.
That's a
So
good.
yeah. Anything else on legacies? Jerry Jones still sucks ass. What? Going to I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Damn. The Cowboys hate coming out of this podcast. Sorry, Gator.
Unbelievable. I agree,
He
but
leaves.
unbelievable.
Hey, no, kid, I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
How will Jerry Jones's legacy be affected by this Super Bowl?
Well, you see, he's gonna go all in this offseason, right? Like we've heard the last 5 years, and we're still gonna lose in the first round. So, no change.
You lost Dan Quinn. That's
yeah, and we're gonna hire
biggest
Rivera.
worry.
Like, what the hell are we doing? Why we should go get Bill Belichick, DC.
It's
We'll
okay,
see.
kid. It's okay. We just benched Russell Wilson and still have Sean Payton. All right. Going to Pro Bowl. How do we fix it, boys? Okay, so I've been thinking about this a lot. I just want to, this is kind of a fun segment. So you think about all-star games, right? MLB, NBA, both of them, right? You don't actually, I don't usually watch the all-star games. I think they're, like they are what they are. They play them. They're usually not that fun. They try to change up the rules and make it different, but no one really watches the all-star games. But you know what people do watch? They watch the home run derby. And they watch the dunk contest. If it's good, right? If you can get the attention. But those are two really thrilling events. What does NFL have? A dodgeball tournament? No. Precision passing? You know what would bring some fans? And I know this is a stretch, and this is totally the wrong direction of the NFL. Oklahoma City drill. Like, let's go back in time. Let's imagine Ray Lewis going up against, I don't know, vintage Marshawn Lynch or Jerome Bettis or, I don't know, like put in whoever the hell you want. You're telling me you aren't turning on your TV and watching that shit. I think I just fixed the Pro Bowl, guys. I think I just fixed it.
Let me tell you, the diehard football old heads would watch that for sure. The only problem is, like you said, that's
the
not
completely wrong direction.
The league does not want to do that. In fact, they've been taking out Oklahoma drill from like high schools and colleges, so I don't know. This current Pro Bowl that they have, I like watching the precision passing, personally, but maybe that's just because I throw the ball, but it is a little bit like we are in an era where passing for quarterbacks is not like, especially like accuracy, is not like the most dominant thing in a quarterback. Like, we're not looking for dual threat guys that can do both, right? That have a strong arm and pass accurately, right? And that make good decision. Like, we're looking for a more diverse quarterback than the drop back, throw it quarterbacks of the old. So it is a little interesting that, like, I don't think precision. I don't think precision passing is like as fun to watch when it's with like Jalen Hurts and like Gardner Minshew and Geno Smith and Tua Tagovailoa. Like when it was Rivers and Big Ben and like
Peyton.
I mean, Peyton and Brady would be playing in the Super Bowl, or at least one of them would be.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is the opt-outs.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have Geno Smith we have to change the opt-outs somehow, some way, because Geno Smith and Gardner Minshew were like the bottom half of quarterbacks this season. You know, they weren't in the top 16, and yet they're both Pro Bowlers. How?
Well, yeah, but they're alternates, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because I imagine they called Josh Allen. They're like, "Yo, would you want to be an alternate?" He says, "No." You know, oh, we can just go down the list.
Yeah.
But Trevor Lawrence had a better year than Gardner Minshew, and Trevor Lawrence had a terrible year.
Yeah. I was gonna say he didn't even play that good. I was not impressed by him at all. But Cade, what do you think of my proposal?
How funny would it be if, like, during the middle of an NFL game, two guys, get at it, and they'll be like, "I'll see you at the Pro Bowl," and they can write their name down and be like, "We'll settle this beef in the Pro Bowl." So you just have a bunch of just scrums. Like, that would be pretty. I would watch that. I also
you sign it with the UFC.
Yep. I also think it might be interesting if you let players wager some money for some of these Pro Bowl events. Like, you call out another quarterback, you'd be like, "All right, 50K, I can beat you in the precision passing." So that's a little more high stakes, and players aren't just going, for the deep shots 10 times in a row. They're actually trying to, like, get points. Like Dan Orlovsky or whatever that guy's name was went out there and beat 6 of the quarterbacks because he just hit the 1-pointers the whole time. I don't know. I think
he hit the 10-point, but
yeah, but like, if you just came out like Tyreek Hill, "Oh, I'm faster than you, $100,000. Let's do a 40-yard dash in the Pro Bowl." I don't know. I think some money wagers might incentivize a little more entertainment out of these guys.
Yeah. You could put a little twist on it too and donate it to charity because you know how people are. They don't like the actual betting, just going to making the rich richer. So, you could get a good cause out of charity too. Yeah, I like that. All right, well, we just fixed this Pro Bowl. NFL sponsor us. And no, but I agree with you. Like, going back to like the selection thing, you gotta have less opt-outs. NBA and MLB somehow don't really have that issue. They just don't. People show up. It's an honor to them for the Pro Bowl nowadays. It's like, all right, cool. That was Pro Bowl.
I think it might be because the MLB and NBA All-Star games are midway through the season.
True.
And
do
the
you
Pro
change
Bowl's at
it
the
then?
end of the year. The problem is, the biggest issue is everyone's afraid of getting hurt, right?
Yeah, it's
even
also
though they've changed all these rules, to making a flag and all this other stuff, a receiver can still tear their ACL. Even though the receivers did not opt out this season, we had great receivers at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you do make it a mid-season.
The problem
thing,
with the
game 8.
mid-season though, NFL is 17 games, whereas MLB and NBA, you have 162 games in MLB, you have 82 games in NBA.
You'd have to
You're
choose your Pro
judging somebody
Bowler
off of what, 9 games, right? I think you'd have to do like 3 quarters, right? Like 16, not 16, like 14 games. I don't know. Right before the playoff stretch. I don't know. This is hard, man. Roger, get to it. All right. Anything else for the Pro Bowl? Shout out my boy Baker. All right. Boys, thanks for coming on. Great Super Bowl episode. I'm excited. We laid down some really great narratives for these people right now. They're thinking about all these narratives right now, if they're still listening. But yeah, appreciate it. We are on the come up, getting a lot of followers, subscribers. Make sure if you're not followed or subscribed on my socials, make sure to do that. Appreciate all the support, all the love. Let's get to it, boys. Thank you.
Thanks for having us on, Hunter.
Yep, thank you for having us. Make sure you go put a like on all of mine from the list, from the top 50. I'm trying to outlike these guys.
Dodge is winning currently. All right.
Let's go, boys. You know how it is.